So welcome everyone this evening. We are here today to listen to the beautiful Bass Tadros. I met Bass around 7 years ago at a conscious event when he was back in the coaching industry. He also comes from a holistic wellness background, and you've reached out to us in our community because you are looking at becoming a candidate for the Australia Health Party. I'm super grateful for you to come forward, because I had a lot of questions in myself within my professional industry, and also as a woman, how to take care of myself, and also how to help my community navigate its way through this time. And so I know that as a candidate for the party, you're looking into ways that you can support a community like ourselves of holistic, like-minded, coaches and professionals and families, essentially. And we just welcome you in today, and I'd love you to intro yourself and give us a little bit of a background about you and what's led you to become passionate about becoming a candidate for the health party. And I'll just go in while you're doing that and just turn off this. Maz, if you could just turn off your audio, that'd be great.
The joys of modern technology. I'm really grateful for you, Katie. Thank you so much for introducing me to community, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight. So the reason I reached out to Katie is it has been a few years since we've met, and I am rolling into a completely different, new responsibility as a political candidate for Health Australia Party. Now, Health Australia Party is almost like the new kid on the block, if you like. They've been around since the 2015, and they started out as a lobby group for natural health therapists. Their concern was all the naturopaths, chiros, coaches, all these people that provide natural therapy were getting squeezed, and we've seen what's happened in the UK with them, but we've also seen in Australia how that's starting to get squeezed on the extras on your private health insurance. And so they started out back then just lobbying for natural health therapy, that the government gives us a little bit more support rather than squeezing us out of business, so to speak. And then they realized, well, there's a number of things that just being about natural health therapy or being single focused or single issue focused on a particular topic doesn't make them very embraceable in terms of having enough policies that represent families and communities. So they said, well, if we were to take care of Katie's personal health, how could we best do that? It wouldn't be just about supporting her from a natural medicine stance, but would look at the environment, the economy, the democracy, the society. All these aspects affect Katie, the food supply that she gets, the water that she gets. So all of those elements in the environment impact her health. And so based on that, we then it became a federal political party. They've run in WA from a federal election point of view a few years back. And I joined them because a little bit about me now, and then I'll tell you how we interweave the journeys between Bass Tadros and Health Australia Party. So I was in corporate for a Fortune 500 company for over 14 years, and I had the privilege to travel around the world with them, meet different people. But at some stage in my mid-20s, I was almost having a midlife crisis because I felt so much stress and so much pain, anxiety. And at some stage, it was almost debilitating. I couldn't even get up in a meeting, introduce myself and say my name without almost having a panic attack. So I said, things that doesn't feel right, things need to change. So I went and I looked for solutions, natural health solutions. And I looked at things like chiropractic, kinesiology, neuro-linguistics programming, hypnotherapy. And I found some answers. And as soon as I found these answers and these solutions, I felt so good. I was like a different person. So I came to work, people were like, what's different about you? And people were suddenly buying me a coffee, booking a meeting room and asking me for advice. Can you help me with this? I've got troubles at home with my kids, my family, my boss is giving me too much work. And suddenly I'd just go to close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and I'd be hypnotizing them in the meeting room. And so I decided, why am I doing this corporate 9 to 5 job? Is it because I fell into it? It was the default thing. And I've now got some real tools and solutions and resources that I didn't previously have. How come we didn't have these solutions, growing up? Why weren't these things taught to us at school or at uni? And as soon as I asked these questions, the answer was, if you think this is worthwhile teaching, go out and teach it. So to cut a long story short, I resigned, left the corporate world, started my own practice in East Perth as a clinical hypnotherapist, coach, and educator. So helping people with mindset, managing stress. And we all know, I guess, if you guys are involved in, the holistic natural health space, that stress is a killer. Stress doesn't just affect people on a physical level. It affects them on a spiritual, mental, and physical. And most people just feel the aches and pains, and they might go to the chiro or the physio and say, I've got aches and pains in my shoulders or neck. But they don't really understand that it's the emotional charge or the psychological charge that needs to be cleared. So from doing that for a few years, I was like, well, how do I grow my brand? How do I get more people to notice me? How do I serve my community better? So I got involved in community TV as a presenter for about 3 or 4 years. And through that journey, I met Health Australia Party. I interviewed them, fell in love with their policies, their values, and I really aligned with them in the sense that I could see they're real people like you and I, and they're not career politicians. They don't have any political sort of aspirations as individuals. They're really there to serve the community. And so in meeting them, having events like this that we're having tonight with them to educate the community, basically they asked me if I'd stand as a candidate. I said, I hate politics, I'm too honest. It's perfect. you qualify. And so the whole reason I'm actually doing this is not because I want a job or a job change or a career change. I don't want to go back to corporate or to politics in this stance. But what happened was I met a lovely senior counselor in my area, and she said to me, you've always been involved in a form of politics. If you have been in community TV and in community, helping community is a form of politics. Getting into parliament is just a different platform. And so she said, you would be great, because this is what we need. We need young people, energetic people, and people that care about the community from their heart, and not because they have a particular motivation or drive to do something for their career or their money or their own agenda or their party's agenda. And I said, well, my party's agenda is to serve the community, and that aligns with my agenda. That's why I'm doing this. But it helped me see that all I needed to do was put away my own fear and put away my own hesitance of jumping into this political circus, because it's literally what it is. And can I bring to it some good values, the values that we all bring to what we do as holistic practitioners: integrity, honesty, transparency, and making sure that my value system doesn't get altered by the platform that I'm jumping into. So why am I doing this? Why me? Why now? Why Health Australia Party? Well, it's because if you haven't seen what's going on in 2020, then you really haven't been living on planet Earth. Maybe you've been observing it from the moon or something. We have so many broken systems. We can start by listing them, or I'm sure you already know the systems, but maybe just on a high level so that I can address these as we go through our conversation, not to complicate things and not to stir things up anymore. And I will tell you what I mean by this in a moment. But the broken systems are, we all rely on our information coming from a source, and usually that source is the trusted mainstream media. But what if the mainstream media is using manipulation techniques knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously? They are contributing to a pandemic of fear, a pandemic of mental health crises, pandemic of suicides that is driving our entire society to a breaking point. from young people to older people, the isolation, the things that are happening in this time in our lives. Um, it's very paradoxical. Let me say this. At one point, I can tell you I'm honored to be here with you right now and to be alive on planet Earth at this time during this transformation that's taken place before our eyes. And another point in terms of the paradox, these are crazy times. Right is left, left is right, up is down, down is up. People that are running the circus, that are lying, are looked at as heroes. I saw somewhere, and I hope it's fake, today, that Daniel Andrews is up for a leadership award for the great work that he's doing. In my opinion, I think he needs to go to prison for the work that he's doing. But that's just my own humble opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would disagree with me. And we probably fall in that same category here in WA with our state. We have people that probably praise McGowan for what he's doing. He's locked the borders, he's keeping us safe. And other people going, it's borderline dictatorship. It's not harmonious. What are we afraid of? Why are we getting locked down? So I'm touching on some points here, and I'll tell you why. The last thing I want to do in this forum, in this conversation that we're having here, is promote more fear, doubt, anxiety. I actually want to help you resolve it. And I will tell you how we can all resolve it in our own individual way in a moment. But the key thing is, there's a lot of people, and I'm sure you've all been invited to these groups. Some of you are probably already are on these groups. They think they're awake, they think they are conscious, and all they're doing is peddling information. We don't know if that information is accurate or true. And a lot of the information is creating more anxiety, more stress, more fear. I had a lady this morning reach out to me. She's a fantastic supporter of the Health Australia Party and of me. She's constantly on our feeds. She's constantly commenting on everything. She's very active and engaged. And she commented this morning on a message to me as a PM saying, could you please help me? I got this message that says that the military is going to come in to Victoria and they're going to administer these vaccines and they're going to force people. And she seemed like she was in fear, panic, and sheer terror. And I looked at it. I did what I always do, what any of us conscious, helpful, holistic therapists would do, is I took a couple of deep breaths. I felt into it. And we can usually sense other people's emotions. And I thought, how can I best serve her? How can I best help her? And I just messaged her back saying, the message that you're sending, you got from someone else. It's coming from a place of fear. Could you tell me if you're acting from a place of inspiration and wanting to help people, or desperation? And if you answer that question for yourself, once you tell me honestly, I can tell you where to go from here. She came back and she said, you're right. It's coming from sheer terror, desperation, not inspiration. And I said, don't act from that space anymore. If you want the best for humanity and the best for you and your family, your community, stop acting from that space. Don't share messages like this. We don't know if the army is going to come in or not. I can't tell you for sure if that will happen or not, but I can tell you, you are not helping by sharing these messages. And so she said, I'm sorry, I'm alone. I feel like I'm a little person and I'm afraid. And I said, give me your phone number. I called her. And I'm not telling you this to suggest that I'm doing anything more than what I would do for any of you. And I just called her and I said to her, I don't want you to feel alone. You're always engaged with us. I want you to feel like you're part of a community, part of a family. And I want you to feel like I could be one of your relatives rather than just the guy that you're trying to support in my cause. And here's how you're going to do that. And here's how I'm going to support you to get out of the problem and be part of the solution. I'm sure you're not part of the problem, but just so that you can share this information with other people. If we look at a quote from Rudolf Steiner, and I'm probably not going to do this any justice because I'm not going to quote it word by word. I'm just going to tell you the way that I remember it. He says he was alive over 100 years ago with the Spanish flu. And that pandemic that happened back then was, as you know, pretty devastating. Back then, they didn't have TVs. They didn't have the internet. what they had was the rollout of the radio, first ever satellites for radio, so that you can listen to radio. And he said, what we have is not a health crisis, we have a spiritual crisis. In fact, I think he may have said something about a spiritual deficit. And so it's exactly what's happening here today. People don't realize that what's going on here is not just a health crisis, it's a spiritual warfare. And if we are going to resolve this, we need to start to practice the best spiritual practices we possibly can. Now, I'm not here to try and tell anybody how to practice spirituality, because spirituality is a very personal thing. I'm not trying to tell you to join a particular religious group. If you're religious, that's fine. And it's not about indoctrination of faith. Spirituality, just so that you know, for some people, it's going for a walk on the beach. For others, it's connecting to Mother Nature in the bush. For some people, it's grounding in their grass in their backyard. For some, it's walking their dog. Others, it's yoga, meditation. For me, it could be meditation, prayer, spending time with my little kids. I've got a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 11-week-old kid. And they are my joy, seeing those kids.
Wow.
Yeah, playing with them. So I'm busy. I'm not one of those people that's sitting around waiting for something to happen, waiting for a savior, waiting for somebody else to find solutions for me. The key thing here is, first and foremost, like I said to the lovely lady from this morning, find your own inner connection within you in whatever way, shape, form that looks like. Get connected within you. Now you can connect better with others. You can sense better messages behind things. You can discern if the information may be true or not true, and whether it's worth sharing or not. I get a barrage of information and I never share it unless I've sifted through it and seen what's the source, where's it coming from, or else I'm just adding to more of the stuff that's just bouncing around. So one could say, maybe this isn't a spiritual warfare, it's an information warfare. And if that fits you better because you're a technological person rather than a spiritual person, that's fine. Call it what you will. Whatever it is a warfare, because whether we talk about information or spirituality, to me, they're kind of one and the same. Information leads to what? Enlightenment, knowledge, right? If you practice it, use it. And so does spirituality. So everything leads back to spirituality. Everything's spiritual. Me having this glass of water is a spiritual practice right now. So just buying myself a chance to take a sip here. So the key thing, what I'm trying to say is get connected within yourself. And if you're already a holistic practitioner, if you're doing some of the things that Kate has said in terms of you're helping people, or you're even helping yourself on your own personal development journey, this is the best time to be practicing the things that you know. If you don't practice it now, then when? If not you, then who? And so start with you, connect better within yourself so that you can connect better with others. And then, is there a way we can help each other? Of course we can. It could be in whatever way you like. It could be in as big or as little things that you want to take in terms of steps, actions. No one, if we're talking about spirituality or information or enlightenment, no one needs to tell you what to do. It will come from your heart. It'll be the inspiration from within you will lead you, guide you, and share with you what you need to do and when you need to do it and who you need to do it with. So it shouldn't be about indoctrination or telling you what to do in that sense. If you have questions, which we're going to have the Q&A at the end, ask questions and I'll give you direct answers. But the key point, what I'm sharing with you here today, why do I need to share this information with you? Well, one, I care about you and I want people to move out of fear, which is, if you know this, it will help you a long way. Fear is one of the strongest tools and resources for somebody to manipulate somebody else. Fear is used for manipulation. It is a very powerful tool for manipulation. And we're shifting, if you want to know some of the spirituality, out of that fear-based consciousness from that third dimension to fourth and fifth. And I don't want to talk too much more about that because I'm not a guru and I'm not a spiritual master or any of this sort of stuff. But if you know your senses, then you don't negate any of them. If I told you close your eyes and just listen to this conversation with your ears, well, why can't you see me as well? So use all your senses. use your sense of smell, taste, all of them, touch, feel, and know that you're here, you're alive, and you're real, and this is real, and this is happening. There's a lot of things going on in the planet at the moment, and you could buy into the fear side of it, or you can buy into the excitement side of it, that we are stepping up in our consciousness. Why is the pain and all this stuff necessary? Well, you can't get consciousness without contrast. You can't, any of you that have gone on a sort of a journey, personal development journey, knows that you had to have had some sort of struggles to get to where you are now. For some, it may have been, losing loved ones, or grief, or fear of death, or having a cancer or something. For me, it was, like I said, it was that stress, and I had a lot of relationship stuff that was coming up at the time, and I was like, what's going on? There must be a better way to live. And that's what led me through. So it's the darker times and the harder times that give you the greatest answers and growth. And that's what's going to help you with this moving forward. Don't dread the hard times. Don't dread the things that are not going right. Look for the solutions of how you can make them right. And people say, well, I feel like it's out of my control. Fine. Find the things that are within your control. Not everything's in our control. I can't control what flights are flying in the sky above my house to land at the airport and whatever times they go, but I can control what I can do about it. I can control who I can, message about it, or who I'm going to report, or what am I going to do, or investing in earplugs or whatever. But you find what elements of control you can do in your out of control situation. I'm going to take a little pause, and I'm just going to ask Kate if she's got anything, because we were having a conversation before you all came on, and I said to her, just point me towards certain things until we get to the Q&A.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I do have a question dropping in, actually, as I'm hearing you talk, and I feel like, a lot of things that you're bringing forward are a lot of tools that probably many professionals and practitioners will be, doing quite naturally anyway. Right. It's awesome for you to hear you coming from that space and reflecting that back to create, more safety in the community, and to change the focus of the awareness. Because, when I think about politics myself, and you've also brought this up, Bass, like politics doesn't interest me. When you reached out to me and said, I would love to meet people from your community and have a conversation, about the Health Australia Party, I was like, I don't know a thing about politics, and it really disinterests me. But what I do care about is knowledge, and what I do care about is making informed choices. And as we make these informed choices, what I guess a lot of us are seeking is how can the party support us to make these informed decisions? Because I hear you talking about, okay, well, let's move out of fear-based consciousness and into a space of inspiration. And what are the ways that the party can offer us that support? These are some of the things that are dropping in for me.
Yeah, perfect question. So the party in itself is set up by real people like you and I, real blooded people, because we start to question it. Are the people that are currently running the systems even human beings, with knowing what they're causing in terms of these devastations, yet still persisting, or what's going on? So the party's run by real people that care about other people's realities and lives and families and health. And I'm going to give you my recent practice rather than my just Bass sort of answer here. The practiced answer for the media is, we get asked quite a lot, is the party an anti-vaxxer party? And I'm just going to tell you what the practiced answer is. The answer is, the party has no investment in saying yes or no to the vax. But what they do have is giving people human rights. And some of these things that are currently happening are completely against the Nuremberg Code. According to the World Health Organization and their website, there is no one particular vaccine that is 100% safe, that doesn't come without any risks. Some actually have risks that cause not only damage or harm, but death. And this is right out there for people to see this information. And so what we'd like to see, because Australia is one of the very few Western nations that don't actually have a injury scheme to protect people from those injuries or any of those things. And of course, even any scheme that's out there doesn't bring loved ones back if they die as a result of this, or if they're permanently damaged as a result of this. But we at least need people to know and have informed consent. None of this, medical intervention should be forced on people, especially healthy people that, that don't need it. And so this is my practiced answer, guys. My hand on heart answer is that is why I'm doing this with Health Australia parties, because I don't want anybody to knock down on my door. I've got the act here. I had to print it out yesterday because of a radio interview that I was on. It's the Public Health Act, Section 158. And it basically, we are the only state in Australia, I don't know if it is the same anywhere else in the world, where the chief health officer can authorize a security guard or a police officer to come into your home forcefully, hold you down, take off your clothing, even underwear, and inject you with this vaccine. Like, are you serious? Have we not learned from the atrocities of what happened in Hitler's days? This is where we're going if we do not stand up for our rights. This is where we're going if we do not talk about our freedom and conscious health choices. And some part of me has to practice the right answer for the media to play the role of politician, but I don't really give a shit about the role of politician. I'm going to always do my best to speak from my heart, because I think that's what drives me. And I want to protect my family, and I want to protect my community from being forced into receiving some sort of, God knows where it comes from, toxin that comes and gets injected into their body. That there is a lot of information out there that says it's DNA changing. Why do we need something like that? And anybody that speaks against it is muted on social media. Any doctors that speak against it lose their jobs. It starts to make you really wonder, where is the freedom of speech? Where is academic freedom in research? And so now you have both my answers. My practice one, which I've still got to keep practicing, obviously, and you have my hand on heart one, which is exactly where I come from. So you can see we're not going down the path of traditional politics here. We're going down the path of getting real people to get into parliament to represent real people and their community, not to play a role of sitting there getting a cushy salary and playing the narrative of their political party, which is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing this on mainstream media with Craig Kelly, who's stepped up in New South Wales from the Libs. And what happened? He got dragged back in line, apparently, by ScoMo, and told him to I don't know if the media is telling the truth on that one, to pull his head in and not to represent these alternative solutions that he's trying to help his community with. Where are we going? Where is all this heading? And I don't know. I'll turn it to you again, Katie.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a great question that probably all of us in the community, in the world, are asking at the moment. Where are we going? Where is all of this heading us? It's very real to have those concerns for ourselves, for our families, for our professional jobs, for our community, for what we're all very passionate about. Yeah. And one of the things I'm just thinking into as I hear you talking about this, and the craziness of that there's a legislation out there that would allow that to happen to its people. Yeah. To me, that is a monstrosity. Like, that is, it's not logical. It's not taking care of and unifying people. It's not supporting their higher choices for themselves, and to be able to make informed decisions about leading their own families and health and wellness decisions. And so one of the things I'm sort of thinking, Bass, is like, what power do we have in this? Like,
Well,
what is our power here?
we are, and probably this is the bit that I missed from that earlier conversation that I was saying I had with the lady this morning. We are the divine intelligence. You call it what you will, according to your own belief system, incarnated as man, as woman, and we're here having a human experience. We are spiritual beings that live for infinity, and we're having a human experience. So when you work from that space, nothing should ever make you scared. And the intelligence that's within you, that's beating your heartbeat, that's expanding and contracting your lungs, is the same intelligence within all of us and every living being on the planet, and every tree and every animal. And so when you realize that we're one with everything, again, you're not alone, and you're not single, and you have all the power within you, but it comes back to choice. So without going too woo-woo and too spiritual on you, and I'm not going to prophesize other than I'm going to share with you what the bookies are saying. Labor will win this election. It's $1.03 to $11 for the opposition leader, to $51 to the Greens. So Labor will win this election, and this craziness will continue. However, we the people must stand and must be united. I'm not talking about protesting. I'm not a protester. I'm not talking about going in the streets with signs. I don't think any of those things matter as much as knowing who you are from within, working from within first, connecting within the community, staying active, staying aware, and staying sane, because like I said, it seems like everything's upside down. Right is left, left is right, and so on. So let me get to it in a more practical sense. Again, this is not a prophecy, but what have we seen recently? We've seen a snap lockdown for 5 days in WA. We've just seen an imitation or a similar thing happen in Victoria. They're actually still in it right now. Exactly the same. And in both, they're worse than the previous lockdowns in the sense that chiros and psychologists are non-essential. So we will stress everybody out. We'll make everybody go into sheer panic. And I'm not joking when I say sheer panic. As soon as the news was made by McGowan about the snap lockdown decision, people were in my street, because we have an IGA in the corner of my very small cul-de-sac suburban street, with masks, running back and forward from their cars that they parked across the street here in the car park, and running to IGA for God knows what, toilet paper or what the hell they were, I don't know. But I don't even know if they ran out of toilet paper from the first lockdown. I'm not sure what's going on. But the fear and panic drives non-logical, non-rational decisions, because all of those people could have just said to themselves, if they were in their right mind, tomorrow morning, the shops will be open and I will be able to go to the shops and buy whatever I want. But what did we see? Not just in my street. And I was like, what is going on? I do not watch the news. I don't listen to radio unless I'm on them. What is happening here? And so friends called me, and I saw some things on my Facebook feed about Perth going into a snap lockdown because of one case, highly contagious. Apparently the guy that had the one case, who lives with 3 other housemates, none of them tested positive. Every place he's been to, and he was a very active guy. I'm surprised they didn't list how many people he slept with, but he went to so many places. None of those places had one case test positive. What happened? Where is all the living beings that are wondering what's wrong with this scenario? I haven't seen anybody stand up and go, there's something wrong with this. This doesn't make sense to me. Guess what? Let's go one step further. People wore masks. I didn't wear a mask for a single second. I don't own a mask. I don't intend on buying one. I'm not going to wear one. So my silent protest was I went out every day with my beautiful family, and we walked out like this. And people looked at us. That's okay. I'm okay with attention. And one lady, 20s, went like this to me at a bakery, and I'm in there with my 5-year-old son, and I said, what? Because you can't see her face. It's like this, right? Oh, I'm not wearing my mask. Oh, I'm allergic to it. I'm exempt. And so could you be if you wanted to be. And that's all I said. I swear, I'm sure she probably took down my number plate, took pictures of my car and tried to report me. But what are they going to do? Are they going to come to my house and say, why aren't you wearing it? I'm exempt. Where's your exemption? Are you a medical doctor? I don't have to show you my exemption. So I got so excited by thinking about this because I realized how much this is dividing our community. Now we have people that are going, you're a mask wearer, you're not a mask wearer. Just like as if we need more things to divide us. We already had the racial stuff that they stirred up with the world circus that people watch, which is called the news, and as if we need more things to be divided by. So the mask is adding to this. And the number of people that came to me within a day of me experiencing that experience, which was a mild one, and said, I'm being harassed. I've got asthma. I have panic attacks when I wear these things. I can't breathe. And I go, oh my God, imagine all the stress in addition to all the fear and panic that's been created by this mask saga. And so I started thinking, what can we do other than being a silent protester and not wearing the mask and telling people you can be exempt if you choose to? And no one's allowed to ask for your exemption because it's against human rights. It's against your privacy. It's against your medical privacy. Security guards, police officers, they're not medical officers. They're not medical practitioners. They can't look at my exemption. They're not allowed to. Where have we given up all our rights? And so I thought about this. And I only just found out yesterday, McGowan changed some laws where people in government are exempt from being sued or being held legally liable. So the radio host that was sharing this yesterday while he was interviewing me, he said, if someone in McGowan's cabinet stabbed him and killed him, they couldn't be held for a trial for murder because they're exempt. And he's backdated it to before COVID. So I don't really know what the whole plot is here, but I can tell you there's some serious insanity. And we need to ask what's going on for us to stay sane. We also need to stay connected and keep talking to each other, not to regurgitate and repeat what's going on. I'm just sharing with you some of the craziness that I'm living and experiencing at the moment. And I wonder if you're experiencing this in your own life. But so what I found is if we can't sue the government, and we can't even place a formal complaint against them because it's not going to go anywhere, who can we? And the deputy chief doctor, medical officer, which he's just a doctor. He's a private entity. He's not elected. Nobody elected him in, who's telling people to do the things that they're doing through the government. His name is Dr. Andrew Roberts or Robertson. I'll check that in a moment. But we're basically looking at doing a lawsuit against him. One, because he's gone out in media less than a year ago saying healthy people shouldn't be wearing masks. Then he's done a backflip on that. He's doing a Fauci on us. And now people were mandated to wear masks. And guess what? This is the most bizarre part here. This guy could do that. The government could do bizarre things. They're exempt from all sorts of things. They can't be sued. But why are people so strange? The people that just went and blindly wore the masks are exactly the same people that just took them off on the 14th of February. If they were convinced that these masks were for their health, why didn't they continue wearing them? I didn't see a soul wearing a mask after the 14th of February. If they were so convinced that it was for their health and safety that they're wearing these masks and to protect them and to protect the community, why didn't they argue to wear them for a bit longer? None of them did. And these are the same people that were giving people dirty looks and pointing at their masks just a few days ago. And you think, what is going on? Am I the only person? It's like I've woken up and it's a nightmare. And am I the only person asking these questions? Is anybody else asking these questions? And so when people ask me why the Health Australia Party, can you imagine? I can't sit there and tell them what I've just told you in 40 minutes. But all I say is some people have to take action. You know, years ago, one of my mentors in corporate said to me, there are 3 types of people on this planet. I beg to differ. I think there's a lot more than 3. But just to keep it concise, there are 3 types of people, according to this gentleman. And he said, those that take action and get things done, those that watch things happen around them, and those that don't even have a clue what's going on around them. And he said to me, you get to choose. So you guys, we all get to choose every day, every moment of every day, every second of every day. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy that gets things done and take action, or the lady? Do you want to just watch other people do it? Or do you want to just be the person that's clueless and not sure at? Wear masks, okay. Take off the mask, all right. You know, it's going to the insanity in the US where they're saying wear 2 masks. And somebody on radio asked me, why did they ask Biden to wear 2 masks? I said he needed one for his forehead. I didn't know what better answer to give him. Look, there's a lot of insanity going on, and it's like we are going sane in an insane space. Years ago, I don't profess that I'm a shaman, but let's just talk about shamans for a second. Back in tribal days, shamans were the people that used natural medicine and healing, and they knew exactly what they needed to do to help their tribe. How they did that is because they sensed things before those things happened. So for example, the shaman would go out on the mountain or the hill or whatever he did, and he or she would sense what's coming. There's a storm coming. And they'd probably have whatever that storm is going to bring, whether it's the anxiety or the depression or the anger or the fit or the nightmares or the cold sweats or the fever. And they'd process it, and they'd become the solution. They'd become the antibodies, if you like. And they'd come down to their tribe from the hills weeks before it hit them, because they experienced it a month before it. And they tell stories. And because they told stories by a campfire to their tribe, they kept their tribe safe and they kept them alive. And so the tribe would get the antibodies. And when the storm would hit, the people would be affected a lot less and would be impacted a lot less. In a large way, we've lost our tribal settings. And any shaman, because of the size of population now, would probably die trying to save his tribe. But I'm not afraid of death. I'd rather die doing something I believe in than live for nothing, you know. And I've never been a follower. This last 5-day thing that happened with the mask thing, it really made me realize that although I've lived a life of being completely compliant, never broken any laws, I've always followed everything. My father was a cop, my mum was a teacher. So you could see I had it from both sides. I had to do the right thing by law and by academy. And all I can say to you is, I don't want to be your shaman, but I want you to be your own shaman. I want you to sense things before they happen. And I think we all have that within us. And then help yourself and help your family and help your community before it's too late. The way things are heading, if we don't take some sort of level of control of what's going on, of our destiny, it will not head down a pleasant path. But I can tell you, you know, from people that have seen where this is heading, that are quantum and that are beyond me, that humanity wins. But it doesn't win by us sitting on our comfortable chairs and sofas and hoping that somebody else does the work. We've all got to do the work. I'm conscious of the time because I am not in a quantum space right in this moment. So I'll hand it back to you, Katie, and then we'll open up to Q&A if you like.
Yeah, sure. The one thing I guess that's coming into my logical brain, and I have my own deep connection, but for more of the logical people who want practical information to apply to their industry, to their professions and all of those aspects. And I deeply love what you're bringing the deeper connection forward for people to question unto themselves and question their own integrity, and to, you know, use that as their inner decision maker, you know, use their instincts to discern their own truth. I hear you talk about the aspects of staying connected, being informed, being active, being aware, and coming from a place more of informed inspiration than fear. Like, I really feel that is an asset and tool for all of us as practitioners, all of us in a role of leadership, to to be checking in with ourselves, like where are we coming from, and to come back to that integrity. That really is something that we can use as a tangible tool to come from a place of power, to feel that sense of power, and that there is something that we can do. And I like it that you're talking about the strength in numbers, in community. But one of the things I sort of thought about as I was listening to you talk is I feel that there's this real fear of people, you know, what about the people who may believe in COVID but still are conscious and aware people? What if they're not sure? What if they feel like, you know, and we have free right and there is certain information and that is a very real fact to them, like, but they still want to make choices. What about the people who are coming from a space of, you know, they don't want to be ridiculed and they don't want to stand up and speak because they don't want to be publicly shamed, and they don't want things to be made difficult, and they don't want their industry to be shut down? Like, what are the ways that the party is going to be able to support, you know, these concerns of the people?
So the first things first, obviously the party's got to get elected to get into government to play a role in rewriting these policies. The first thing that we want to do is remove this crazy policy about Section 158 of the Public Health Act, completely remove it and hold whoever put it in responsible. You know, maybe they need to be asked and publicly shamed whether would it be acceptable for that to happen to their family. And then we need to start to, as we work together with a more practical, logical sense, unite the community. If people want to take the vaccine because of their fear of the disease, take the vaccine. Nobody should tell you not to. Nobody should tell you that this isn't real. If you believe it's real, that's fine. For me as an individual, and I really struggled with this because I didn't want people to be harmed or dead because of a vaccine for a virus that may or may not exist, because nobody from all the scientific research and the people that I've spoken to can completely confirm, even the CDC doesn't have a signature strand of this virus. So they're beside themselves. There are people saying they want to sue academics and PhDs and researchers, immunologists, microbiologists, doctors that have done the tests, couldn't find the signature from the CDC. So they want to go out and sue them. That said, I still believe and accept that if there's other people in the community that are afraid of the disease and they want to protect themselves through this vaccination, they have the choice and the right to. And who am I or anybody to take that away from them? As much as I don't want them to face any harm, but that's their conscious decision. And if that's what they want for themselves, great. But not by force and not by someone coming into their house, holding them down and jabbing them with this thing, right? So we need humanity, we need human rights, we need people to be understanding, and informed consent is the key. That's what the party wants to work on. Protection for human rights, protection for academics. We've got something that I've never seen any other party, and it's not because I'm biased, say, but they want to protect whistleblowers. And to me, that makes sense, because why do we get whistleblowers in the first place? Usually because of corruptions and systems that are broken, and they just want to expose that. If we can actually get into a position where we can do that, now we're not going to win government. We're not going to be a McGowan or a ScoMo, but we just want to get a seat to try and bring balance. That's what minority parties historically do, unless they sold their soul and they allow the other parties to dictate to them what they can and can't do. So that's what we want to work with. And we want to have the community directly tell us what they want to see more of or less of. Are we going to get pushback? Are we going to get crucified by the media? Are we going to look like anti-vaxxers? Are we going to get all the stuff and the labels that's already happening? I mean, they did that in 2016, calling us anti-vaxxers, and we won a case so that the media can't say that anymore, because we don't have anything that's anti-vaccine. We're not pro or against vaccines. We just want people to have informed consent and not be forced into it. And again, if we could get a vote, whether it's by the people or by the parliament, do lockdowns work? And if they work, let's keep doing them. If they don't work, Why do we have to keep going back into them when we know that the lockdowns are causing some more severe things, way more severe than the actual disease itself? Suicide rates, domestic violence, all those things. Isolation of elderly people that should be honored at their time of passing rather than being left to die alone. That in itself is going to go down as a crime against humanity. That in itself is a form of genocide. So we really do need to work together. I can't do this by myself. I know that the party couldn't do this by itself. When I joined the party, I was their first candidate, and I said, how many more candidates do you need? Because I don't know anything about politics. And they said, we need 12. Great. I'm on. How many more to go? They said, we need another 11. Great. When do you need them by? In 2 weeks. Great. I've got my work cut out for me. So I literally parked my business and I started doing things that I've never even done for my own business, for this party and for this cause. Because if we think about it, and I've got friends in chiropractors that are still so complacent, even though they were shut down not long ago and told that they were non-essential, they still think we just got to keep working. We just got to keep doing what we're doing. And I'm thinking, what point are you going to realize that whatever your wages are, whether it's 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 a year, will be zero. If this keeps going the way that it's going, you'll be deemed non-essential. Things will not go the way you want them to go unless you take action and start to realize that there is no new normal. There is no, we'll take the vaccine and then things will go back to normal. There is no those things. Masks on your face when you're a healthy person is not your new normal. Getting forced to be vaccinated because of this black plague where people are dying all around us, as you can see out on the street, that's not the new normal. We've just got to start to, within our own self, wake up enough that we become the antidote, the answer, that solution, the antibody. And I'll give you a very simple answer. This isn't just for you as a human being or for your evolution. It's for your children if you're a parent. Children, we all know this. And if you're a conscious parent, you know this more than most. They don't learn from what you say or what you do. They learn from your embodiment. They learn from how you feel. If you're safe, they're safe. If you're shitting yourself and you're scared and you're pretending you're brave, they know something's not right. They rebel, they cry, they play up because they're afraid too. They can feel what you can feel and they mirror it so that you can resolve it. So think of all those people that are out there that are afraid, that just want to be masked. And I think the masking thing, here's the analogy. We all need to have a voice. We're being gagged. We're seriously being gagged from having a voice. And it's time to strip off the gag and have a voice. Be a real being. Don't be afraid. So just going back to the point that I was about to make, think of the people that are scared and that are allowing themselves to have their humanity and their freedoms and their rights stripped off them. They're kids. They're just being on the planet for a bit longer. And they're afraid. They're terrified. That's why they're doing what they're doing, because they're being controlled through the manipulation of fear. If you could have that upright spine and that God consciousness within you, knowing that everything's okay, I'm okay, my family's okay, there is a new world being birthed, and you can hold that solution, you will give them the space of going, this person's just a bit different. I feel good around them. I feel okay around them. What are you doing? And again, you don't have to push anything down anybody's throat. You just ask them some questions. Show them what we're doing. Invite them to our community. Eventually, they might go, oh my God, there's 20 people in this room that believe that the vaccines aren't safe. Well, that might change my mind too now. There's 20 people in this room that believe that the information on the media isn't always true or accurate. Now I've got to question what I'm hearing and seeing on the media. And that's where it's going to start. And the only way to create a new world is not to go and try and fix all the broken things, but to create better things so that people go, I like that over there, and start to walk towards that instead of continuing to work with what's broken. I want to try and wrap up. I'm conscious of your time. I know it's 9 o'clock, and if you're a parent like me, it's past your bedtime.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, if anyone would like to drop any questions for Bass in the comments, I can read them out to you if you like, Bass.
I'm happy for us to unmute just in the name of unmasking and ungagging, and I want to hear your voice.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Thank you. Go ahead. Anybody? Tracy, is that you? Hello, Tracy.
Thank you for all of that, Baz. It's funny, everything you say, I'm like, we're reading all the same stuff, looking at all the same stuff. I've looked at your party. I'm like Katie. I've never really got involved in politics. I really steer clear of it. It doesn't rock my boat. But this past 12 months has certainly made me. I even know a lot about US politics now, ironically. Well, I think I do. But yeah, it certainly made me look more at what's, the parties at the moment with an upcoming election. And I'm looking at all the policies of the Health Australian Party. I actually looked at the Health Australian Policy Party at the last election as well.
Well done.
I really love everything that you've got on there. I resonate with. I like the way it's much better this time round.
I'm glad you like it. So just on that point, there won't be one single party that everybody could agree with. So there might be some things that people will look at on the Health Australia Party and not completely love. But what they've got to weigh up is the pros more than the cons, and just realize these are real people creating something. We're creating a platform, and it's so open to people like yourself that come and say, hey, I'm really passionate about women's health, for example, and can I propose this as a policy? I'd be the first to take it to the executive team, would look over it, and we may introduce it as a policy. That's how open we are to what we're writing with our policies. Or you might go, I don't completely agree with this policy, how it's written. Can we fix this about it or remove it? We'll take that to the executive team. We'll all get a vote on it and we'll remove it. That's what we're working with here. We're working with a platform that is flexible and amiable and that has a human connection, not a sense of, no, we've got to do this. So I'm hearing you, and like you, I'm pushing myself into a platform that I don't love. I don't love politics, but I love people.
Well, I'm grateful you've taken it on board, especially with a little 11-week. I'm actually a midwife, so when you said 11-week, I'm like, geez, you're busy. But
my wife is very supportive. She's a super mom, and so I'm grateful for her love and support.
That's great. I suppose for me, I'm a registered nurse midwife. I've always come from a place of health, and I hold in my heart one of the things I was taught when I was training about the importance of, no coercion in health, any kind of health policy. And I've just watched that go out of the window in the last 10 years. I saw in 2016 when they brought in the rule that you were talking about, and we were sitting at work going, what's going on here? Like, this is a bit odd. And just the circulars we get at work, it's all, now that I look back, I've sort of seen it come into play, but I didn't realize what was going on at the time. So I'm sick of I'm sick of the major parties. I'm so naive with politics. I don't understand why they always have to be elected, But if there is a party out there that can have an influence to make a difference, that's what I'm looking at the moment. I went and looked at the non-mandatory vaccination party on the weekend just to hear what they had to say. So yeah, I'm just trying to educate myself on it, but
well done.
I'm happy to, be a supportive community and try and make a difference to what's going on for our future.
And that's exactly what we need to do. We've got to be the change that we want to see. I started a group years ago that I call Be the Love That You Want to See in the World, rather than just be the change. And look, we're working very closely with smaller parties, because that is one of my ethos about collaboration and being inclusive rather than exclusive. But some of them are a bit harder to work with than others. This week, without boring you too much with political stuff, but you did mention a good point about the two political monopolies, if you like, and the illusion of choice with them. How come they have to get in? Well, what happens, I learned something that I never knew unless I got involved with politics. It's called preferencing. And this week on Monday, it was finally exposed. And what happens is, weeks before it, all the parties speak to each other. They probably never speak again until the next election. And they try and make deals. So if you give me a higher rating in this seat, I'll give you a higher rating in that seat. And they negotiate with each other. And you'd expect to see that the smaller parties would come in and really work together, because it's a David and Goliath battle between the smaller parties going up against these big giants. From a budgeting point of view, from a resources point of view, from every point of view, if you can look at it from that way. The media doesn't give anybody airtime, because the media is very aligned with Labor, very aligned. They have a union-based thing. Plus, if you look at a bit more recent events, with the first day of the lockdowns, McGowan approved a very big deal for Kerry Stokes, who owns most of the media in WA, and FMG boss, I forget his name, it doesn't matter anyway. It'll come to me some other time. But so both of them got approved because we're in a state lockdown, state emergency. It didn't have to go past all the protocols of environment and regulations and tick, tick, under the radar. And so one journalist mentioned that from the Fremantle, small whatever, but thank God for the internet, because as soon as that article came out, we were all able to share it and look at what's happening. And these are the things that are happening in these lockdowns. Postal votes were sent on the first day of the lockdowns. What chance does the smaller parties have when that happens? Because people are captive audiences in the home, and they're now doing the postal votes where they're in a week lockdown. Thank you, government, for protecting me, and voting them back in. Hence why the bookies give them, $1.03, which is like literally, they're definitely going to win. The key thing is, if they win with a landslide and they get majority seats in the upper house and lower house, we don't have a democracy anymore for anybody that values democracy. It becomes a dictatorship, it becomes a communism, because they'll be able to run whatever policies they want, unchecked, unquestioned, because they have the majority in both upper and lower house. These are the things we've all got to start to learn now, because this is the life that we're living in, with quarantine as a new term, self-isolation as a new term, and all these other new terms. So I take my hat off to you, Tracy, and I'm glad that you said that from a registered nurse point of view. I mean, how does it make you feel that you can't voice your opinion, or you stand to be deregistered?
Yeah, we're very much gagged. We've been sent emails to say what we can and can't say. But what I will say is there's plenty of midwives that I work with who, of course, health professionals tend to support vaccination. It's how we're trained, it's what we're taught. However, I know that the majority of people I've spoken to of late are very suspicious about the COVID vaccination. They're quite concerned, because we do know that it's been rushed through.
Yeah.
The average vaccine takes 7 to 12 years, or only 5% make it to market, and this one's rushed. So
hasn't even been,
we've all been concerned about mandatory, because we're health professionals and frontline, but it doesn't look like at this point in time that's going to happen, but who knows down the track. So the good thing about that is people are starting to kind of ask questions and wake up a little that wouldn't normally.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And midwives are so close to it. I call them the closest to miracle workers, because they're literally delivering life, right? And so they are very connected to what we were talking about in terms of a connection earlier. And it's so deep that it's beyond logical. Sometimes you don't even know that connection is that deep. But look, I respect what you're saying, and that's the key. This is what we want to represent, is options, choices, so solutions that are beyond the two major parties. And yeah, there's lots of interesting things happening and coming out in the pipeworks in this preferencing thing. But just to give you guys a little bit of comfort, we stand a good chance of this. We really do. As Health Australia Party, we've come out okay out of this preferencing stuff that's just happened. There is a very good chance, if we get the kind of support that we need and we get some good prime votes, we're in. And so part of the reason why my good friend Amy reintroduced me to Kate, and we wanted to talk to people in Geraldton, is Geraldton's actually part of my region. So I've got agriculture as my responsibility, my region, my seat, and it's so big. It's bigger than the state of Victoria. It goes all the way from Esperance through the wheat belt and all the way above Geraldton to Kalbarri. So it's massive territory, and I can't humanly cover all of that territory to go out and meet everybody. So I've been blessed enough, because I've met beautiful people like Katie that have said, we'll help you. Some people have said, we'll put up your posters or we'll put up your banners. I'll put it on my front fence. There's a lot of traffic that goes through there. These little things raise awareness, and any little bit of awareness helps. I met with a guy today that delivers organic fruit and veggies, and he said, I'll just put your flyer in the boxes, and I'll give the farmer the corflute, and he'll take it back to his brand highway or wherever and put it on there. And I said, great. So I think what happens is the energy we're talking about here provides. If you're willing to step out of your comfort zone and go, what do I need to do to be part of the solution? Everything starts to come together. Even people that are busy go, I'm really busy, but what you're sharing with me here is really important. Let me put it into my busy schedule, and we'll see how we can make it work. So anything you can do, if there's in any way, shape or form, I'm going to have to come to Geraldton on Friday to prepare, because early election booths open up next week on Wednesday, the 24th. And if people don't know who Health Australia Party is because they've never heard of us, they're less likely to put a vote on the ticket. But on another day and maybe a different time, Tracy, I'll explain to you why the bigger parties get in. And it's because of these preferencing, and they preference themselves so high that they get in, whether people vote for them or not. You could vote for One Nation and the Libs get in. That's how crazy it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Anybody else? Wendy and your lovely husband, did you want to say anything? I know you guys have been paying attention from early on.
Yeah, I mean, ditto to everything that you've said, and I guess it kind of sums it up that, I do want to be a part of the solution, and just kind of hearing this gives me hope that there is some answer. Like we're getting a lot of political stuff circulating in our community, and we've kind of said to each other like, oh, it's like, what do you do? We're just going around in circles. So it's good to have some hope, I guess, and that Geraldton, I think, it's probably the circles that I travel in, but I believe it's a reasonably open, conscious community. And I think that there are a lot of people here, if they knew about you, that would be really interested in having, being a part of the solution, because otherwise it feels pretty hopeless. So it's good to have hope.
Yeah,
definitely.
people taking up. It's what keeps us alive, isn't it? Hope. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's the hope of going to bed and being safe enough and knowing that you'll wake up tomorrow that keeps you going, right?
Yeah. So well done for you sticking your hand up. Thank goodness there's people like you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank goodness there's guys like you as well, because the Health Australia Party isn't the Health Australia Party without people, without members, without people supporting us, without what's the point in doing this if we didn't have people that we were doing this for? So it's about people like you that make this worthwhile. Believe me, before the whole idea of the Health Australia Party, I contemplated moving to Sweden with my wife. I'm sure it will eventually affect us there, but let's buy us some time and go to Sweden.
I guess you've got your work cut out for you to get up and start spreading the message in Geraldton, so they know that they've got enough to vote for. Yeah,
definitely, and I will spread the message. We really want to do a lot of good work for the Indigenous community as well. The interesting and funny thing about this journey is it's really reminded me of why we came to Australia. So I'm a migrant from immigrant family, first generation. And I remember when I was a kid in Egypt growing up, we are indigenous of the ancient Egyptian sort of tribe, if you like. And Egypt's been dominated by so many different people at different times. So the Coptic people of Egypt are direct descendants of the pharaohs. And there's DNA proof of that thanks to the mummification process. Who would have known that? Thousands of years later, they can test the DNA of a mummy and find that the Copts are direct descendants. But we're also suppressed there because of our religion, because the Copts are predominantly Christians and they marry into Christian families and they keep the Christian Coptic bloodline. And that's the only way you can maintain that over all these thousands of years. So religion does have some things to be thankful for after all. other than hope, it does keep bloodlines intact. And so when we moved from Egypt to here to Australia, it was for the hope and the promise of freedom, free life, freedom of speech, a freedom to live the way we want to live, freedom that we're not going to be oppressed. We're not going to have someone blow up our church in the middle of our Christmas or our Easter. I still have nightmares about that. I woke up in January 7th with a nightmare that somebody blew up a church during a mass. And these things happen very often over there that we never ever hear about over here. So I'm not saying this to raise panic or fear or any of that stuff, but I just want to say that even for me personally as a kid, living in a world like that and coming to a world like what we have here, this is heaven. Australia is a beautiful country and we have so much to be grateful for, but there are people that are trying to jeopardize that for all of us. And it's completely un-Australian what they're doing. And it's turning people against each other. And so we've got to stand up and have that spirit and remember what makes us who we are. And so that's just part of, you know, my journey and it's part of why I am insisting to be a solution. I came to this country for rescue, for refuge, and perhaps now I have it within my bloodline to be the rescuer or the refuge. But I can't do it alone. I'm not delusional to think that I'm going to be the hero and fix. I can't fix anything, but I can definitely present at least a solution.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Katie. I know that's resonated. I know you probably care a lot as well about the Indigenous people and the Indigenous work. And so that's the key. We've just got to work with them and help them. And who knows where this is heading? What if the whole system gets taken down after I get into Parliament? I'd celebrate that and happily give it to the Indigenous people to run it the way they think is best, you know?
Yeah, I think there's some powerful messages coming through. And so for those who end up watching this replay from our community, from our industries, the health professionals, on behalf of myself and my heart, I feel like this has also come into my life because it was something that I was feeling fear around. It was something I was asking in my, you know, my moments of, as you were saying, checking in with that inner compass. What is the solution? What can I do? How can I have power in this? And I believe that you've come to be a part of that solution, not just for myself, but for others, to bring this message of hope. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful that someone, you know, is being a voice for choice and freedom. And all of the things, you know, the freedom of life that you spoke about, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of safety. I feel that these are all very important aspects for us as individuals, but then, of course, on a greater scale to our loved ones and our community and how we can serve other people in our community. So deep gratitude for what you are doing. If any of our community would be interested, I can't do this alone. Also, you know, when Bass reached out, I have a 2-day turnaround to be on another 5-day event back to Perth, and you know, the transit of travel and everything is put quite some time constraints in. But we're here, we made it work, and I would love for us to come together as a collective health and wellness industry of one voice, and to, you know, bring some support, bring our community in, like-minded people, stand together, be that change, be that hope, and really start to bring some, you know, knowledge and information to our community so that they can feel that they can make informed choices about their lives in health and wellness. And freedom of speech. I think that's really important. So if you would like to be a part of that, please reach out and inbox me. And when the time aligns, for myself, Bass, I'm not able to make something happen prior to this weekend. But definitely any professionals watching this video, or Tracy or Wendy, or any connections that you have, please lead them to Bass, get them in contact with him, and we can look at coming together and creating an event, a conscious health talk to inform more people in the community about their rights and their choices, and what the Health Australia Party actually is about, and see if we can support your mission also, Bass.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you introducing me to community. Thank you, Wendy and partner. And thank you everyone for joining. Tracy, Nat, Lara. I appreciate you all, and yeah, look, I hope to meet you in person. Maybe in this trip to Geraldton, maybe in another one. But stay in touch, and let's stay connected and support each other, because together we'll make this possible.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to help.
Thank you. Good. All right. Well, good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Katie, for
Dad.
organising.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you. Thank you all for coming on. Great to see you.
Thanks.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.